All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the call today for the Texas Family Friendly Worksite Development Initiative. This call will be recorded, just so you know, so we will share that recording when we do send out a follow-up email after the call. Those of us who are on this project include Julie Stagg, who's the State Breastfeeding Coordinator at the Department of State Health Services, myself, Alma Carver, who is the Texas Mother Friendly Worksite Technical Assistance and Support Project Director, and Joshua Klaus, who is the Graduate Assistant with our project. So before we jump in too much, I want to just give everyone on the call a chance to say hello. So if you see there is a chat box on the right-hand side of your screen, which should have a little plus sign next to it. If you click on that plus sign, then you should be able to type in a message there and click send. So if you'll just type in a quick message that introduces yourself, give your name, your city, and your organization name, that would be very helpful. So we'll give folks just a minute here to go ahead and log into that or to chat in. There are directions on the right-hand side of your screen as well in the webinar. So I'm not seeing any chats in just yet. I'm wondering if you all have that capacity to chat in. Do make sure that when you select send to, you send to your entire audience. Okay, I do see a couple of folks who have chatted in. It looks like into the question box. So we've got a couple folks. Thank you, Bridget and Christina, for typing in. Fantastic. Yeah, if you're not seeing that, the chat box, if you do see the question box, go ahead and utilize that if that's the box that's available to you. All right. Great. We got another one who typed in. Fantastic. So if you guys will, for those of you who just joined, if you could go ahead and type in your name, your city, and your organization into the chat box or the questions box, that would be very helpful so we ensure that you know how to type in questions in case you have them as they come up on the call, and also just so we know who has joined us today. Great, so we'll go ahead and move on at this point. Just to give you a sense of what's on the agenda for today, we will start off the call by, Julie will share a little bit about the benefits of being a Texas Mother-Friendly Worksite, and as well as some information about the state and federal laws to support worksite lactation. Then we'll go into some of the program requirements to become a Texas Mother-Friendly Worksite, and share a little bit about what we as the Technical Assistance and Support Branch do to help employers build out policies and lactation support programs. And then we'll jump into the Texas Forward project overview. So we'll talk a little bit about eligibility, the application process, and reimbursement for that, as well as the activities that are included in the project and a timeline for that. And then at the end, we'll have an opportunity to answer some of your questions. So if you do have questions that come up throughout the call, please go ahead and chat those in so that way we can review them at the end of the call and ensure that you get those questions answered. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Julie, who's going to share a little bit about the benefits of being a mother-friendly worksite.
Hi, everybody. Thank you all for joining us today. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the benefits of having a worksite lactation support program, and you can be recognized for your worksite lactation support program through a Mother-Friendly Worksite designation. Employer case studies and other studies show that employers that have a worksite lactation support program in place experience a return on their investment of up to $3 for every $1 invested in their program. And that comes through a variety of means. And these are benefits in and of themselves, but there's also costs associated with this. So in general, return to work is the leading barrier among working moms for breastfeeding. It's the #1 reason why working moms who don't breastfeed ever, that's the #1 reason why they don't breastfeed, is because of barriers that they perceive with return to work. And it's also the #1 reason why working moms who started breastfeeding stopped breastfeeding before they wanted to. If there are accommodations in the worksite and a mother-friendly environment, then employees can continue to take care of their needs, meeting their goals for breastfeeding, taking care of their physical needs, knowing that their babies are getting the feeding that family prefers. And those, both the mother and the baby will experience long-lasting health benefits through breastfeeding. So I could talk about that for a long time, but one thing for employers to know is that recent cost impact studies have shown that about $17.2 billion could be saved in the United States each year by mothers and babies breastfeeding following according to medical recommendations. So exclusive breastfeeding for the 6 months of life and continued breastfeeding for at least a year or longer after, while also introducing other foods starting at about that 6 month of life. Mothers who don't breastfeed are at increased risk for cardiovascular disease, hypertension, diabetes, breast and ovarian cancers, and other poor outcomes. So these are your employees, are face health risks if they're not able to meet their breastfeeding goals and breastfeed according to medical recommendations. Their babies are also at increased risk for both acute infections and long-term chronic health, poor chronic health outcomes. And it's estimated that for every 597 women who breastfeed according to medical recommendations, a life could be saved. And most of those lives are actually the mother's lives. So this is an important benefit to provide for employees in many ways. More immediately for employers, they'll who do have mother-friendly work sites, they experience immediate returns on their investment, and most notably by being able to retain qualified employees. Those mothers who are supported in combining working and breastfeeding are more likely to come back to work in your setting, and they're also more likely, once they return, to stay employed with you. So losing an employee is expensive both monetarily and in terms of institutional knowledge. So it's important to retain employees. Moms who are employees who know that their physical needs are taken care of and that their other needs are taken care of are better able to focus on the work at hand. And so there's increased productivity, there's improved morale and loyalty, and there's also, both for mothers and fathers of breastfed infants, reduced absenteeism. Because of the health benefits that I alluded to earlier, breastfed babies are sick less often and for shorter periods of time. So that means that there's less time being taken off to care for a sick child by any infant caregiver. Also, the families of breastfed babies are going to have reduced healthcare costs, and that might impact your health plan. And also, I mentioned earlier, lower turnover. There's also, in addition to the health case for supporting worksite lactation. There's also a legal case. There are several laws that apply to this area, and the most far-reaching is the Fair Labor Standards Act. It was amended in March of 2010 to include the reasonable break time for nursing mothers provision. And under this provision, employers who are covered by the Act must provide a reasonable break time each time a mother has a need to express breast milk during the workday through her baby's first birthday, and must also provide a private, non-bathroom place that's free from view and intrusion from the public and from coworkers for her to express breast milk each time she has a need to express breast milk during that first year of her baby's life. This provision is included in the overtime component of the Fair Labor Standards Act, so it applies to employees that are eligible for overtime pay or for non-exempt employees. There's very detailed guidance as well as lots of general information and fact sheets and information for employers here at the U.S. Department of Labor's website on the Break Time for Nursing Mothers Act. And we wanted to draw your attention particularly to this request for information on break time for nursing mothers document under key news. And this document has detailed guidance on the department's current enforcement interpretations. So it's got guidance about how they're looking at what these different components of the law mean when they're at a site investigating. So they've got guidance on what space requirements are and why, the different aspects of what reasonable breaks mean and what all goes into determining that, and information on all the different elements of the law. So if you have detailed questions, this is a great place to go for information about what is required legally of you in terms of supporting your employees. There's also another federal policy guidance from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. They recently updated their policy guidance related to pregnancy discrimination to also include lactation. And so I would refer you here to learn more about what the requirements are in terms of civil rights protections for employers. In Texas, we also have the Government Code 619, which was passed in September, or became effective September 2015. And this state law requires that all public employers have a written policy on milk expression by employees in the workplace. And the law stipulates that public employers have a policy that support the practice of expressing breast milk and make reasonable accommodations for needs of their employees to express breast milk. The law defines what is covered or who is covered under this act, and who qualifies as a public employer, and you'll notice the first two here, county and municipality, and that's the target for this opportunity that we're presenting to you today. So we're really interested in working with counties and municipalities and becoming mother friendly. And at the same time that they're doing that, they can also accomplish meeting this legal requirement under Government Code 619. There's a link to the statute here. The law goes on to define more specifically what is meant by supporting worksite lactation, and the policy has to state that the public employer will provide a reasonable amount of time for employees to express breast milk each time the employee has a need to express milk. That language is very similar to what I quoted earlier from the Fair Labor Standards Act, Reasonable Break Time for Nursing Mothers provision. So that's consistent across all of these laws that I'll be talking with you about. The second is that the policy must provide a place other than a multiple user bathroom that is shielded from view and free from intrusion from other employees and public, where employees can express breast milk. So this language differs a little bit from the Fair Labor Standards Act. The Federal Fair Labor Standards Act states that the place must not be any kind of bathroom, multiple user, single user, or otherwise. No bathroom is appropriate under the federal law. This state law does say other than multiple users, other than a multiple user bathroom. So there's some discrepancy there, and under the federal law, whatever provisions of that law are stronger, that's what takes precedent. The government code prohibits discrimination for asserting the right to take advantage of this policy that the state or that the public employer has in place, and no cause of action is created. Finally, the oldest worksite lactation support law in the country is the Texas Health and Safety Code 165 breastfeeding. This has several components, one of which is creation of the mother-friendly business designation. This law also, in another section, affirms a woman's right to breastfeed in any location in which she is authorized to be. This is not specific to employers. This is really covers, all locations where a woman is authorized to be. She has a right to breastfeed there, and that's clarified in the law. We've included this information in this presentation because it does have ramifications for employers. So if you serve clients that are coming into your facility for whatever services, then it's important for your employees to know that if she chooses to breastfeed in your establishment, that she has a right to do that in any location where she is. So this is a good thing to also have a policy about, just so that your employees are informed and they are prepared to support that woman's legal right to breastfeed. The law also establishes the mother-friendly business designation, and that's the purpose of this project. And so what is a Texas Mother-Friendly Worksite? In addition to the language in the law, we provide additional guidance through our administrative rules for this program. And a Texas Mother-Friendly Worksite must adhere to the definition of a mother-friendly business, which is a worksite that actively promotes and supports breastfeeding by its employees and that maintains a written worksite lactation support policy that is regularly communicated to employees. So I wanted to stress a couple of things here. Our focus in terms of evaluating whether or not an employer can be designated as a mother-friendly worksite is really focused on the policy. The policy is the backbone for this program, and we're looking for some basic criteria, and there's lots of ways to expand upon those basic criteria that create a mother-friendly program. But the emphasis is on the policy, and there's many, many, many ways across work settings to implement any given policy, but it just provides the standards that will be adhered to in all of those work settings. So that's what we're looking at, is the policy. We're also looking at that the policy is regularly communicated. So a policy that is not regularly communicated obviously is not very effective. So in order for employees to make use of the policy, they have to know that it exists and have some understanding of it. So those are important aspects of this definition. The minimum requirements under state law for designation as a mother-friendly worksite, and then also with additional interpretation through our administrative rules, is that that written policy provides for flexible scheduling for milk expression breaks, and we further interpret this to say flexible scheduling for milk expression breaks, reasonable break time each time a mother has the need to express breast milk during the workday. So we use the federal interpretation or federal language as our interpretation of what should be provided, but we also add this element of flexible scheduling. So under all of the laws that I've discussed, there is not a requirement that break time be paid other than already usually provided paid break time. But if an employee needs time over and above that usually provided break time, or there's not a usual provided break time for most employees, but there is for nursing mothers under law, then there should also be an arrangement of flex time scheduling so that the employee can make up time that she's missed over and above her usual breaks, or choose to make up that time so that she's not having to use other types of leave or leave without pay. So that's the first criteria. The second is, again, that space is provided, a place is provided that's accessible and that is not a bathroom, and that's appropriate for hygienically for the purpose of milk expression. There's a lot of flexibility within this criteria as well, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a dedicated space. And if you participate in this initiative, you'll learn more about what all the options are for providing space, but there is a lot of flexibility. But what's not flexible is that it can't be a bathroom, and that it needs to be a space that's accessible and appropriate for the use of lactation. Also, through the state law that established the criteria for mother-friendly, the policy has to provide for access to a clean, safe water source and a sink. This does not have to be a sink within the lactation space. It can be about a sink in a bathroom. It can be a sink in a break room. It can be down the hall. It should be reasonably accessible to the employee so that she can wash her hands and clean her pump equipment there, and that she, is able to do that and allowed to do that. If there's a work setting that doesn't have running water, like out in a field, there's other ways to accommodate this. So it doesn't specify running water. If you have running water, of course, that's what it should be. But if there's a work setting without that, it can just be another clean water source and like a dish pan or whatever for a sink. So there's, again, flexibility here. And finally, hygienic milk storage alternatives should be provided. This doesn't mean that you have to provide anything, any material item that's over and above what you would already have. Moms can store milk in her own personal cooler, in a break room refrigerator. Breast milk is food. It's considered food by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and by OSHA. So it's not considered a biohazard or a body fluid. It's considered a food, just like your employee's sandwich. So if you allow your employees to store their sandwiches in a refrigerator, there's no reason that an employee couldn't store her breast milk in a bag or in a cooler in the refrigerator as well. Or it could be a dedicated refrigerator in the lactation space if you choose to provide that. So it could be any one of those combinations. There's probably some other, it could be an employer provided personal use cooler too would be the other solution. But the requirement is that the policy provides for some kind of arrangement where there's no risk of toxins or extreme heat or anything like that. Depending on your work setting, you might have to think through this this step. Most work settings, it's kind of a no-brainer. And again, emphasizing that the policy should be communicated. So pretty simple. I spent a lot of time explaining these and all the different nuances and questions that people have about these, but it's really just as simple as it says here on the screen.
Great, thanks, Julie. And just to share a little bit with you all about what the Technical Assistance and Support branch of the Texas Mother-Friendly Worksite program does. What we really do is we focus on communicating and connecting with the employers themselves. So we spend time kind of with employers along the whole continuum of from an employer who has never developed a policy and doesn't have any sort of worksite lactation program in place, to those that do have very robust programs in place but maybe need their policy reviewed by us to receive designation. So we communicate with employers at all of those levels to build out their policies and their programs and provide them with the tools and resources that are necessary to do that. Those who are very early on in the process, we can share templates with them, policy templates with them, as well as the toolkit that's available on the website, which kind of spells out a really kind of robust process of going through building out a program and a policy and becoming designated. We can also, for those that do have a policy, what we'll do is our team will review those policies. We'll make sure that they meet the designation criteria. And then if they do, we'll actually go ahead and designate on behalf of the program and then share some additional materials that you can post up in your workspace, like a certificate of designation, decals that you can put in your outward-facing windows to let folks know you're a mother-friendly worksite, additional stickers that you can put up in your bathroom stalls to let mothers know that there are non-bathroom spaces available to them to pump breast milk. And so we do that for those that have met the designation criteria. If you do not meet the designation criteria with the policy that you've submitted, then what we do is we work closely with those employers to ensure that they make the necessary changes to the policy so that way they do meet the criteria and then move forward with the designation process. In addition, we also do a variety of outreach opportunities. So we often exhibit at HR conferences around the state to spread the word and let folks know about our services. We also have hosted a number of educational forums that bring together the Department of Labor, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Julie Stagg speaks about the Mother-Friendly Worksite program, and then we also have a panel of speakers of employers who are designated or who provide robust lactation support programs at their worksite to share their experiences and kind of what it took to do that, any of the barriers that they encountered, successes, why it's benefited their employees, etc. So that's really the focus of the work that we do with the Texas Mother-Friendly Worksite Technical Assistance and Support Program. And kind of related to that, this opportunity that we're sharing with you will be providing very close hands-on technical assistance to public employers who are looking to develop policies and programs. So I'm going to let Julie talk a little bit about Texas Forward and what that's all about and some of the eligibility.
Okay. So I talked about Government Code 619, and I also want to tell you that through the life of the Texas Mother-Friendly Worksite program, we've had opportunities to work with literally thousands of work sites. And we also have a great network of partners all across the country of people who have supported employers through establishing worksite lactation support programs. Corporate settings often are already doing this. It's something that can be easily incorporated into a wellness program for for-profit industries that are set up in kind of a brick and mortar standard office work setting. It's fairly easy to do, and they usually have the resources to do that, along with lots of other types of support for their employees. several years ago, I had an opportunity. I received a competitive grant from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention to build this program and resources and tools to help spread worksite lactation across the state of Texas. And one of the components of that was to work with public employers specifically. And we worked with both local employers, so local public health departments, public hospital districts, and state agencies. So these were all, most of them were large employers, multiple work sites. One of them had over, had about 100 work sites. So it was 30 employers, but it was hundreds of work sites that were included in this, and multiple types of settings. So everything, we worked with Texas Parks and Wildlife Department with, some of their parks are very well developed and some are not, and there might not be a single building in the whole state park. So how do you accommodate employees there? Or in local public health departments, if you've got your people out in the field driving all day, or a dog catcher or whatever, there's a lot of different settings within government and non-traditional types of roles, counter service jobs where you're a greeter or whatever, you're tied to a phone, all of those different types of challenges, as well as challenges that come with leasing space and having restrictions on how you can adapt space, or kind of rigid bureaucratic processes and that kind of stuff. So we learned a lot in working with employers, and that toolkit that's at texasmotherfriendly.org is a toolkit that was developed through the process that we worked through with these groups of employers. And so I talked about what's required for designation under Mother Friendly, which is just the basic policy. If the policy meets the requirements, then you can become designated Mother Friendly. But what we wanted to do with the employers that we worked with was to work with them to develop a comprehensive program of breastfeeding support, still maybe a basic policy, but working with them through an evidence-based process of planning a program and developing something that's going to meet their needs, meet their employees' needs, and be sustainable and effective for them, so that those employers are more likely to appreciate that return on investment and those benefits of a good worksite lactation support program beyond just having a written policy. So we did a very in-depth process with those 30 employers, and then after that we had a mini grant opportunity for some state agencies and worked with them through an abbreviated process, same model, but a much shorter timeline and less intensive potentially for the employer. So this opportunity that we are here to offer you, y'all, if you're interested in participating and meet the application criteria, would be similar to that mini grant opportunity that we implemented. And Alma will talk more about the steps that are would be expected for participants to work through. And you can also look at the texasmotherfriendly.org website at the toolkit to get some ideas of the components of that, of the processes that are evidence-based for developing a worksite lactation program. So this opportunity, this particular opportunity, is open to a group of public employers, a specific group of city and county government employers. And we're focusing in this round at large metropolitan statistical areas. So we're looking at the counties and large cities within those metropolitan statistical areas, and then also at if there are smaller cities or towns within that MSA, which I'll show you a map of in just a minute, and I believe you can download it from your handouts tab on your control bar there, then you would qualify. We also had sent out as the part of the announcement for this webinar, a list of the metro statistical areas, the counties that are included in there, and then the large cities over 50,000 residents in those MSAs. What's not on that list that is still eligible, although it's not the priority target, are the smaller towns in those MSAs. So we will be looking for applications from those types of entities, and there's an incentive for, if you live in a given metro statistical area, to work with other cities and counties in your metro area. And so additional funding will be provided to a small, an additional incentive will be provided to those entities if there's more than one entity from a metro statistical area. So in addition to first I'm going to show y'all the map. This map also has micro statistical areas, and that is not a focus of this opportunity. So if you look for the dark green areas and not the light green areas or the white areas, those are the areas that we're targeting, the dark green areas. And so in addition to some funding, also the real benefit for employers in participating is having that having shared learning with each other and the experience of this team to walk folks through the process of developing an effective mother-friendly program. Okay, also there might be questions about if you have already become designated as a Texas Mother-Friendly Worksite program. As a Texas Mother-Friendly Worksite, would you be eligible for this? And the target is cities and counties within metro statistical areas that are not yet designated, but if you are designated, if your city or county is designated, we would consider your participation if you choose to pursue a higher level of designation. So if you were designated at a basic level and you want to convert a number of your work sites to silver or gold level, then we would consider your application.
Great, thanks, Julie. And just to kind of walk you all through some of the project period activities. So these are the things that we would expect for you all to complete during the project period if you are participating. So you can see the first thing there is to form a planning team. So this would be composed of a number of individuals at your organization who are willing to kind of champion this and participate in kind of planning and organizing and really stay with it through the course of the project through August. Additionally, we would ask that you hold at least 2 team meetings. Most of you, if you participate, will probably end up holding more regular meetings than that, just because it tends to be a little bit more efficient in keeping things moving. But we do ask that you hold at least 2 of those team meetings. And then conducting an employee needs assessment, and there are some tools available to you on how to do this on the website, and that we'll share with you if you are participating. We would ask that you draft a worksite lactation policy that meets all of the basic designation criteria that Julie had mentioned earlier in the call. Develop supplies and materials plans, so that would be kind of identifying the accommodations, the equipment that you might need to purchase, or materials that you might need to purchase to move forward with this plan and program that you have. Additionally, we would ask that you develop a work plan or a timeline for completing the policy approval and implementation process. So it's not that we're requiring that everything be finalized and completed by the end of the time in the project, but that there's at least a timeline in place, at least a draft policy in place, and there is a plan for moving forward with approval and implementation. And lastly, we would ask that you participate in the monthly webinars that we're going to be holding. So in addition to this recruitment webinar, which is not mandatory, there will be five monthly webinars that we do ask the participating employers to participate in, as well as kind of engage with the other employers, ask questions, share successes, share stories, share some of the things that you've been maybe struggling with, or some of the things that have gone better than you thought with your process of developing your program and policy. And as Julie mentioned a little bit, there will be some material assistance available to those participating MSAs, and I'll let her actually talk just briefly about what that might look like.
Yeah, so we are, the funding would be determined on a variety of factors, but we will be considering size of the city or county in terms of population, and probably number of work sites for the employer. And this is a mini grant, so we're and it would be determined based on number of applicants as well. So we're looking at anywhere from about $500 to about, for an upper limit of $3,000. So somewhere within that range, depending on a variety of factors. And this would be through a cost reimbursement process. More details of that would be, provided upon agreement to participate. And there, as I mentioned earlier, that if there's more than one, this should actually say collaboration within an MSA is encouraged. So if there is more than one, or 3 or more cities, towns, counties within a given metro statistical area that participate, then they would receive some additional bonus award in terms of how much they would be reimbursed for. And I want to clarify too, just that this applies. So this opportunity is for policy adoption at a city employer level, a county level employer. So it would be for like the entire, we have Tarrant County is, all of their work sites are designated through a policy. City of Austin, all of their work sites are designated through a City of Austin policy. So that's the eligible level.
And just to kind of reiterate on that, I think it's an important reminder that we're not expecting that it's a totally done deal by the end of the project period in August, but that you have developed the draft policy and you've developed the implementation plan and you have a timeline for rollout. So,
and some buy-in.
And buy-in, yes, that's very important. So here's just a brief snapshot of what the timeline looks like, and I'll get into a little bit more of the detail in a second here, but right now we're kind of in those introduction webinar phase, and then kind of between now and March 10th will be the enrollment period. So what we'll do is on Monday we'll send out a survey to all of you that we'll ask you to complete, and that will be due by March 10th. So that really is the demonstration of your intent to participate. And then by March 14th, we'll email all of the employers that we've chosen to participate and request a letter of commitment to participate. And we will provide kind of a basic template for that as well for your submission if that's something that you choose to utilize. And then by March 21st, we would ask that you return those signed letters of commitment to us via email. And at that point, sometime before the first project webinar in late April, we'll go ahead and send out some kind of pre-work information that will get you started with the process, and that way we have some good things to talk about your initial planning stages on that first webinar in late April. So that is all we have today. I wanted to leave an opportunity here for any questions that you all might have. If you do have questions, there should be a little chat box or question box on the side of the screen that you can see. And if you want to go ahead and ask any of those questions, please go ahead and type those in. Okay, I do see a question here. If our policy states our county will provide 2 paid 15 to 30-minute breaks daily for nursing mothers, the nursing mother will be allowed whatever time is needed to express breast milk. However, if the break is longer than 30 minutes in duration, the break time will be unpaid time off. Does that work?
So, so this is kind of a designation question. And for the purposes of the Mother-Friendly Worksite program, that by itself would not be sufficient, because for the Mother-Friendly designation, we also require flexible scheduling, so that that there's a flex time policy that would allow the employee an opportunity to be able to make up break time, missed work time through some kind of flexible scheduling arrangement and negotiation, in conversation and agreement with her supervisor. So there needs to be some kind of flex time policy in addition to just that breaks will be provided as required by law.
Great. I see another question. Our WIC office is currently designated. We want to create a city policy. Will we be authorized to participate in this program?
Absolutely, and your experience would certainly contribute to that process. So now, if your city HR folks are in agreement that they would be participating in that's kind of the piece that needs to be in place for applying, that you've got buy-in at the city level, and that they have appointed y'all as the lead in helping to do that. So yes, if one of your departments within your city is already designated, that does not preclude you from participating fully to have a citywide policy. We encourage that.
Great. I also see a hand raised. I think that's Woodrow Gossam. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you for a second if you want to ask a question.
Okay, I was just finally got where we could type. And
oh, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and mute you because there's some background noise, but I think your question is, where can you type? So there should be a question box on the right-hand side of your screen within the taskbar. And if you go ahead and click on the plus sign next to where it says question, then it should give you an opportunity to go ahead and chat in at that point. It might also just say chat. So if you do see chat on the right-hand side of your screen, go ahead and chat into there and just chat that question to, you can either select all entire audience or you can just select to organizers. Does that answer your question?
no.
Oh, okay. Do you not see either of those options?
Okay. I'll type it to you.
Okay. I also see a question from Bridget. When you say all work sites need to be designated, does this mean each specific building would need to be designated, as we have about 20 sites, or can it be a case-by-case setup as needed?
So, the policy would need to apply to all of your work sites, and that should be, and that's already required of you by state law, so it shouldn't be that much of a stretch. But so the Texas Mother-Friendly, the policy should meet mother-friendly criteria and apply to all of your work sites. But that doesn't mean that you have to have a lactation room at every site, or that the arrangements have to be the same at every site. It's that your policy is providing that those things will be provided a space and the time will be provided, you know, as the need arises, as you have an employee that needs to use that. So if the specifics of how it's implemented in each site doesn't have to be spelled out in the policy. And so, so for example, with City of Austin, there's one policy, but they submitted a list of all of their work sites, and we designate them all, and they're all listed under, you know, as mother-friendly worksite designated. But what it looks like at each site in terms of implementation can vary quite a bit. The policy is the same, and it provides the basic guidance that the city or the county will provide, you know, these things, and not necessarily the how of how those are provided. The how of how those things will be provided is an important thing for you to know, and for you to have a plan in place about how those decisions will be made. And that's some of the technical assistance that we'll provide to you, so that you'll be able to figure that out, answer any questions, big questions that y'all have, and then we continue to be a resource as you're implementing your policy. If you hit up against something that you hadn't encountered before and you have a question about it, like, well, what do we do in this situation, or do you have any ideas? And we're here to help with that as well. I hope that answers your question.
Great. Yeah, and if Bridget, if you have any follow-up questions, you can certainly chat those in or email us. I'll put our email addresses up on the screen just so you can see them as well. And then we do have another question. What is the difference in meaning of breastfeeding versus expressing?
That's a great question. So we've used a lot of different terms. I also have used the word worksite lactation. And some of these different laws and policies use the word breastfeeding because the employee has a breastfeeding relation. Her infant breastfeeds. She lactates. She produces milk when she's in the work site, unless you have a baby at work policy or on-site child care or a work from home policy or something like that, which is not required, although we do have many employers that have those types of policies. Then usually what an employee will be doing during the workday is pumping her breast milk with a breast pump. That's also called expressing. And when she's separated from her child during the workday, her body is still anticipating her baby's needs, and so her body produces milk, and if she doesn't empty that milk at the intervals that her baby normally would be feeding if they were together, then she will experience pain. She might leak milk. She can develop breast infections and be really uncomfortable. It's kind of like having a full bladder that you can't take care of. And if she's not able to pump or express breast milk, then her milk eventually will dry up and she won't be able to breastfeed at all, whether or not she's with her baby. And so she needs to express breast milk at about the same frequency that she would feed her baby if they were together. And so that's what milk expression is. It's taking the milk out without the baby being there.
Great. So I don't see, there's another question. Does this mean she can do either at her work location or other, quote, authorized location?
So in terms of your policy, there's no requirement that you allow babies on the work site, if that's your question. What's required is that there's a provision for the mother to be able to take care of her physical need to express breast milk during the workday, so to remove the milk with a pump or her hand or whatever arrangement, but it doesn't mean that you have to allow the baby on site to directly breastfeed. Like I said, there are some policies that some employers have that allow that kind of access, but that's not required of any employer.
Great. I'll give an opportunity here for any last questions if you want to go ahead and chat those in. Meanwhile, you can see our contact information on the screen here If you do have additional questions that, that come to mind in the next couple of days here, as you're thinking about this opportunity, please go ahead and email us. You can see the email address of motherfriendlyworksite@uth.tmc.edu. That's right under my name as well as Josh's name. So please go ahead and use that email if you do have any further questions. Otherwise, do be on the lookout for a follow-up email from us that includes a recording of this call as well as the slides and the access to the survey that you can complete to express your intention to participate. I do see another question that just came in. Can a receptionist stay at her workstation and express?
Oh, okay. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, so if that's an arrangement that is authorized by the employer, so if a mother has a private office, she can certainly stay in her private office and put a sign on her door and express breast milk there. And in that case, often she doesn't even need to take a break because she can work while she's expressing milk. There's also arrangements for a cubicle setting and other kinds of settings. So it does need to be private, free from view and intrusion of the public and her coworkers. But there's lots of ways to do that where she is. Also, I talked about baby at work arrangements, and a lot of those programs, the baby nurses, while the mother's working, and there's ways to do that discreetly and not disrupt anybody. So yes, if that is an arrangement that is appropriate in that setting, the employer is, certainly encouraged to include that as an option for the employee, that she doesn't have to walk down the hall or down two flights of stairs or whatever, that she can do it where she is.
So long as it's private. Right?
Yeah, so long as it's private and free from view and intrusion. And then that can be through, a lock on the door or signage. And if it's just signage, it also needs to be a very well communicated policy. Signs don't always stop people from coming in. So usually a sign at eye level, and then also just clearly communicated to everybody, like not specific to that mom, but in general. If you see a sign on the door that says, please do not disturb, or whatever that means, don't disturb. We don't necessarily want to have to draw a lot of attention to, oh, this employee's pumping milk in there, but just there's got to be some way to protect against intrusion.
Great. Fantastic questions. Thanks everyone for asking this afternoon. And thank you again for participating. Like I said, this call has been recorded, so we'll share that back with you as well as the slides and the survey to express your intention to participate. Again, the deadline for completing that survey is March 10th, so we'll be on the lookout for those surveys by then. And the deadline for the letter of commitment, I'm just going to go back to that slide real quick so you can see those dates. We do ask that you submit those letters of commitment to us by March 21st if you are selected as an employer that we've identified as appropriate to participate. So thank you again so much for the call this afternoon, and if you do have any more questions, feel free to email us. Otherwise, we look forward to receiving your survey responses and hopefully participating in the program. Have a great afternoon, everyone.